Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order and to acknowledge that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation. And I would like to give a wholehearted welcome and congratulations to the new councillor, Jonathan Kerr. Welcome to the team, Jonathan. And we're looking forward to having you over this next year. And, together we'll continue building bigger and better things for Comox. So thanks for putting your name in. And so the first item is the adoption of the agenda. All in favor? Okay, thank you. And we are missing Councillor Minions today, so she won't be on Zoom. We have three delegations. The first one is ambassadors of the partnership presentation. And I understand Derek Richmond is going to come up and speak and make some presentations. So Derek, you'll have 10 minutes or so up there and maybe some questions afterwards. Yes, just press the mic when you talk so the red goes on.
Gotcha. Great. Okay, that's better. Great. Thank you for inviting me this evening. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Derek Richmond. I'm a director with the Partnership for Water Sustainability of British Columbia. For those of you who don't know about the partnership, we are a non-for-profit society. We were founded in 2002 as an intergovernmental partnership to fund and develop the water balance model. And subsequently, the Living Water Smart document, which is now British Columbia's water plan. Our primary focus is education and information sharing. Right now, British Columbia is at a tipping point. A question that's out there is, will local governments adapt to climate change? Now, there is a beacon of hope, and that beacon of hope is Comox. Comox leads by example to implement responsible water balance management. It's demonstrated this through the work and the lessons that it has learned, particularly in the lower Brooklyn Creek area, the Northeast Comox, and the Anderson Corridor Neighborhood Concept Plan for Brooklyn Creek. Now, you're all aware of traditional asset management. And when we talk about asset management, we normally think of things like water and sewer and roads and drainage. But creek sheds are also assets. They provide core services to a community. And these works that have been undertaken by Comox are precedent-setting because they demonstrate how Comox has embraced creek sheds as local government infrastructure assets. This is a new approach. And this new approach is what we have called EAP, or Environmental Accounting Protocol. It helps managers change practices, to adopt new strategies, to protect ecological systems, and enables them to put real costs and values to these assets. This is all about reconnecting hydrology and ecology. This is really important, and I mean really important, because in the light of the game-changing concept of EAP that is being applied in practice, that began here in Comox, it has the attention of many, many eyes, not just provincially, but from other countries. And how do we know this? Because of the number of hits we're getting on our websites. These people are following the activities of the town of Comox. Comox is a poster child. Now, the partnership is not about an organization. It's a network of people and organizations with similar values relating to the importance of water sustainability, who share knowledge and support one another. And it is the network that sustains itself, not the organization. We in the partnership have realized for some time the need to look at succession planning and ways to ensure that the partnership continues. It is really all about passing on the baton, if you like, or generational information transfer. And there are many unsung heroes, particularly within government organizations who go unrecognized But similarly, there are organizations who recognize the importance of those unsung heroes. Through this new program, our ambassadors program, there's an opportunity to recognize those heroes as ambassadors of the partnership or the network. These are the go-to people. Similarly, those organizations who are forward-looking and get it and give their support to their ambassadors, we recognize them as champion supporters. And on behalf of the partnership, I would like to recognize the valuable contribution and dedication to sustainable water practices undertaken by Shelley and Marvin, and to also recognize the town of Comox for their foresight and supporting the work of Shelley and Marvin and championing them to achieve their objectives. Shelley and Marvin as ambassadors, and the town of Comox as a champion supporter. So having said that, I'm simply here just to give you recognition of what's taken place and provide you with some certificates, which I hope you will place in some prominent positions. So if I may, Your Worship, I have a certificate here for the town of Comox, and one for Shelley and one for Mark. So ladies first, Shelley,
Thank you so much.
and thank you so much for your dedication. Similarly, Marvin, thank you so much. And your Worship, you know, it's so absolutely yes, as long as you're okay with my message.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see organizations, particularly in government, recognize the dedication and step up to the plate and give those ambassadors, those stars within your organization.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know, the town does take a lot of pride in the Brooklyn Creek and our watersheds as a whole. And, you know, we can't do it without the volunteer community members that really do a lot of hard work behind the scenes. And, you know, the town just wants to continue making that area better as these climate challenges come more direct on us, and you know, finding ways to ensure that the balance is provided with that creek and you know, the development around it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So again, Derek, thank you very much for that and for taking the time to recognize the staff on that. Much appreciated from all of us at the town. So we have Keely Donaldson and John Sarazin who's going to come up and speak, and they're going to be talking about the Compass Community Radio. And that's at the old Mary spot on Comox Ave. So some exciting things happening there. So please take the podium. You have 10 minutes and some questions after.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Your Worship, town councilors, management staff, and of course, citizens. My name is Keely Donaldson, and I represent Kiki's Communications. We are a boutique communications company that was started in Campbell River 10 years ago. I'm here with my co-founder of Compass Radio, Compass Community Radio, Jeanne Sarazan. And both Jeanne and I share quite a depthful background, and not only radio communications, but media in general. Jeanne, introduction?
Good evening, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to you this evening. quick background, 29-year career with CBC Radio, another 14 years with a community newspaper back in Eastern Ontario, and now here in the Valley for about 5 years doing various media-related jobs, mostly supporting local choirs and presenting courses at Elder College at North Island College.
Right. And so for myself, my media background is actually from a family base. My grandfather started CFUN in Vancouver. My other grandfather worked for CBC out of Winnipeg for many, many years. My career started in Vancouver with a country radio station and has moved on into places like Portugal, the Eastern United States, and I am back living in Comox as a return. I was here 20 years ago and so very happy to be back. I've worked for Vista and Patterson, and now we're here to present to you a very new concept that we'll be launching, which is a hyper-local radio station right here in Comox. It has been 2 years of dialogue between Jean and I, and we're finally here. Compass Community Radio will be launching later this year, which is coming, as you know, very rapidly. We're almost at the tail end of 2021. And we are proposing a hyper-local community radio station with a great mix of talk, music programming, all related to Comox and the Comox Valley. The station will be streaming online via app, and applications have been made for an official FM license anticipated for 2022. That FM license looks like it's a developmental community license. And I'll let Jean just take a moment to explain what that looks like.
This is a special category that the CRTC came up with to really help nurture and encourage smaller community operations. They were finding that the previous rules were really hard on small community organizations, which need a board of directors, for example, from the community representatives, but they had to sort of attain certain promises of performance that were kind of hard for new business to meet. So they've really relaxed a lot of the regulations around community radio stations. They've extended it to a 5-year window to really get your feet on the ground and get up and running and become a viable operation. Builds up that community support that you really need to make a community radio station successful and stand on its own. So that's what we're going to be applying for, is we're in the process of applying for that kind of community license, and we're really optimistic that it's going to make a big impact in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is hyperlocal? In our minds, and should be in your minds as well, hyperlocal is an all-inclusive gateway for community in community. And Compass Radio will host a myriad of content, including local sports standings, local musicians, CD releases, community events, and emergency broadcasting, which will be an immediate reach into community right here in Comox, along with updates on news and local talk shows. We have put a little soundbite together for you, and Jean will let that roll.
Just want to say when I get this ready that with my CBC background, I'm a really firm believer in public radio. And for me, hyperlocal content means about the public or the citizens of the community, by the community, citizens of the community, for the citizens of the community. So it's a mouthful to say, but that's what I think you know what I mean. We'll play a little clip from some of the programs we've already started producing here. I'll see if this works.
The Oscar Peterson Trio from the album Night Train. You are listening to your Comox Valley community radio station, Compass Community Radio. Super excited to have this opportunity. Local community radio, local music, local people, local events, local stories. That's our goal. Check out our Facebook page for updates. Things are moving along pretty quickly, and we're very excited. Back when I was a teenager in the late 70s, early 80s, I'm aging myself here, I introduced my papa to these guys as a bridge between our musical tastes. From Asia, it's the Black Cow, Compass Community Radio.
There's been a lot of exciting things that have happened already at the Sports Center this year. Things like Ryder Lally first BIJHL shutout and Caleb Berg's unbelievable double hat-trick game. Yes, he potted 6 goals in a game. I'm once again doing the play-by-play for the Glacier Kings, so if you're at any of the games, I'd love it if you came up to the booth before the game and said hi. If you want to find out about the upcoming schedule, you can go to the VIJHL website and check it out On the New Country Drive this year, we're going to be keeping you up to date with all the scores, standings, stats, as well as interviews with the coaches, players, and other play-by-play broadcasters. And speaking of interviews, I have one coming up next with local singing sensation, Brody Lee Dawson. She's won awards, she tours, she just cut an album in Nashville, and she lives right here in the Valley. Brody Lee Dawson. Next, after Gabby Barrett and one of the good ones on the New Country Drive on Compass Radio.
You are listening to 107.7 Compass Community Radio, coming to you from beautiful downtown Comox. Home of the Drive-In Messiah Sing-Along, happening December 19th from 2 to 4 p.m. in the Comox Mall, and featuring the 32-voice Compass Community Radio Choir under the direction of Maestro Paul Colthorpe, the musical director of the North Island Choral Society. This fundraising event will benefit the Comox Valley Children's Choir. Tickets are available at Blue Heron Books in Comox and Color Your World in Cordy. Come sing Handel's Hallelujah Chorus with 100 other voices. It'll make your day.
Amazing, Jean. Thank you so much. Those are snippets of some of our announcers that you'll be hearing through the online version. Currently, we have an event license that allows us to broadcast using 107.7 FM until the end of this month, and to be able to produce the Messiah event that will go live from Comox Mall on that Sunday. We're very excited to be bringing that on. And on that note, with local events, we are hoping to host events bi-monthly, collaborating with existing and expanding the offerings of local gatherings and community events right here in Comox. The goal of the station is to synchronize with Compass Magazine, published by Kiki's Communications, to host these events up to 6 times a year. We hope to partner with Canonical Days, Filbert Fest, Seafood Festival, and other stakeholder events in Comox based on their return post-COVID. The station overall will emphasize foreground programming, better known as talk radio, which is hyperlocal. CCR will have local announcers doing local shows about local people and local information. We are here to drive you local. Currently, we have 6 slots for the day and weekly shows and are building towards more in the new year. If it's happening in Comox, it's happening on Compass. A significant portion of our content will be available on demand as podcasts from our web platform. We've got just under 2 minutes here, and I'll just finish up by saying we're currently shopping for a home for our radio antenna, which is proportionally small, approximately the size of a television antenna, 20 feet tall. Placement of the antenna is preferable to downtown Comox, so not to interfere with YQQ comms or CFB communications. It may be the opportunity to review the town of Comox access to emergency planning and consider a partnership for immediate broadcasting by extending the town's capacity to reach their citizens in a timely manner. The possibility of utilizing the town council chamber building or town hall for tower placement is a partnership that could be negotiated for emergency broadcasting uses. Schematics were attached, and hopefully with some information arrived to you folks for review. There we go, fantastic. And the tower itself is very lightweight and does not create much impact on the building that it's placed. Obviously, discussions regarding liability insurance, power costs are definitely a part of this dialogue. We've also submitted a request for financial support to the town of Comox capital budget consideration. On behalf of the team at CCR, we thank you for your consideration about becoming a sustaining donor or an on-air sponsor. And while the station creeps out and becomes a living entity on Main Street, Comox, financial support is needed, and we are reaching out to local businesses, philanthropists, and governing bodies such as yourselves. We're happy to answer any questions at this time, and we look forward to becoming a very important community partner and stakeholder for Comox. Thank you so much. We are ready to drive you local.
Thank you very much. And before I open it up to questions from council, the 19th, the Messiah, now that's a drive in, like you go to the mall and then you participate in your vehicle. That's correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Sean, would you care to answer?
Yeah, completely like the traditional drive-in movie situation. You drive in your car and you stay in your car, and you will listen to the whole event taking place live before your very eyes, but on your car radio.
And how does that happen, Sean? How come it can happen like that?
Well, we have an FM transmitter,
Right.
and we're going to be, so Director Paul Calthorpe will be on the stage at the front, but we'll have him fully mic'd, as well as about 32 voices in their cars as a core choir. And then everyone else in the audience will be singing along, but sort of the way they do in their showers, right? Sort of no mics for them. So that's a comfort zone, I think, for a lot of people. So that's essentially the dynamics of it. It's instead of using speakers for monitors, we're using an FM transmitter in everybody's car radio. Yeah, so it's a really safe environment. That's the whole idea, right? Is that people who have been really reticent to gather in audiences and crowds and that kind of thing can actually come and participate in this event safely.
Great, thanks. So it was the 19th at what time again at the most?
2 o'clock.
2 to 4. Yeah.
2 to 4 p.m. Okay, great. Thank you very much. A great presentation.
Thank
And
you.
I wish you luck. It's an exciting endeavor for you. So for council, any questions? Councillor Bissinger?
Sure, thanks. It's super exciting to see this is happening. I guess one thing too, like the council, like we've really hoped to improve on our communications over the past couple of years. So we actually just had a new communications officer for the town, which is awesome. And, you know, I see the donation or the sponsorships. So I'm not sure if that's something we could talk about amongst council, but it'd be awesome to see sort of a partnership or a scenario where we could even provide like weekly updates on council meetings or events, or, you know, even tax payment notices or garbage scheduling updates or whatever. So that is good news, all the garbage getting picked up. So I look forward to talking with the council and staff as to how we can make use of this great, I guess, amenity for the community. So thank you. And good luck.
Absolutely. And that is the mandate behind the entire station, is to be able to support communications, not only like governing bodies by yourself, but also within community. And it's simple. It's a priority. And we're here to try and create a collaboration and partnership to make sure that we are all working in the same direction.
Great, thanks. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll see you around downtown.
Thank you.
And we have Stuart Goodings. He's going to talk to us about FCM, International Project to Support Women Leadership in Local Government. So Stuart, please take I don't mind. Councillor Swift, are you okay with? Yeah, Councillor Grant, you're good. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah, your mic.
Thank you for the chance to speak about an idea. I don't represent anybody. I guess I represent an idea. And my idea is that Comox should get on the international stage. A little bit about myself. I came to Comox 10 years ago. I've lived here since then. I love it here. I had a long career in the public services, both Canada and British Columbia. And during my career and after I retired, I got involved in a whole bunch of international projects. Canada is very highly respected around the world for its public administration, both at the federal, provincial, and municipal levels. And I went to several countries in the former Soviet Union area, also China, the Philippines, and it was a great experience learning from other people and sharing what Canada has done. One of the hallmarks of the Canadian approach to international development is that we don't tell people what to do, okay? The big powers, they go there and they say, you should do things this way. What Canada does is we go there and we share our experiences. Sometimes they work out well. We're prepared to admit to our failures and to our mistakes. But we have a very good ability to relate to people who are trying to improve their own public administrations. So the particular project that I'd like you to consider is something that the Federation of Canadian Municipalities is managing. It's got one of these jargony names, PMI WILL, Partnerships for Municipal Administration, Women in Local Leadership. And it's a 6-year project, $26 million, funded by the Government of Canada. So it's a very significant project. It involves 5 countries, 3 in Africa, Ghana, Benin, and Zambia, and 2 in Asia, Cambodia and Sri Lanka. And the idea behind it is to support municipal governments in those 5 countries to help them specifically with encouraging more women in leadership positions, both as elected members of councils and as senior administrators. All the research in development says that the more women you have in leadership positions, the more success you have both socially and economically. That's very well accepted now around the world, and Canada has a very strong feminist policy in its development assistance program. So this project is part of that. So what the Federation of Canadian Municipalities is now doing is it's asking Canadian municipalities if they want to express an interest in participating in this project. There'll be 5 municipal governments from each of those 5 countries. So in all, 25 towns and cities in those 5 countries. And the Canadian municipalities will be working with those countries to help them increase the participation of women in local councils, and also to push for more gender responsive and inclusive policies in their municipal programming. And right now there's a 12-day window. Unfortunately, it's kind of tight, but the need to express an interest in the project has to be done before December the 12th. And I was on a webinar this morning that FCM ran, and they described the process. And it's 10 questions. It's not a complicated application to express an interest in. At this stage, council, you don't have to make a commitment to it. But if you're interested enough, you have to give that guy over there, Jordan Wall, the time to put together the expression of interest. And if I can help you do that, I'd be more than happy to do it. You can express an interest in a particular country. Of the 5 countries, Benin is French speaking, so likely the priority for Canadian municipalities will be from Francophone cities or from cities in Quebec. But the other 4 places, Ghana, Zambia, Cambodia, and Sri Lanka, are all primarily English speaking. And it is possible for council to express an interest in one country. Because what FCM told me this morning is that they would be, once they select municipalities, they would be pairing each municipality with a particular country. So that if Comox was selected to participate in the whole thing, then, and if you said, well, we'd really like to do Zambia, then there's a good chance that they would choose Comox to connect with Zambia or Sri Lanka or Ghana or Cambodia. So that's really about it. The reason why Comox, I think, should do it is, A, you're a model of what the project's all about. You've got 4 women on council, the majority, right? And so you're a model for what this project is trying to do. And so if you had a group of councillors from a little town in Zambia coming here and meeting with you, they would feel really excited and comfortable coming to a council where they can see the majority of women are in leadership positions. Also, I think the size of Comox is a big plus. Sometimes I found in the international work that I did that the big cities, when they go to other places, they're too sophisticated for some of these countries to work with. Do you remember that wonderful expression that Stuart McLean on the CBC used to say? He said, "We may not be big, but we're small." And so there is a real virtue in being a smaller community. You can imagine a small community in Ghana being overwhelmed if they were paired with a place like Toronto or Montreal. But they wouldn't be overwhelmed. They'd feel more comfortable if they were paired with a community like ours. And Comox is becoming more and more diverse. I mean, I think if we look hard enough, we probably find Ghanaians and Cambodians and Sri Lankans and Zambians living in this community. And I think it's positive that we would try to engage people who come from the communities that make Comox their home. So I'll end with, this morning on the webinar, there was a woman mayor from Quebec who had been involved in one of the municipal projects in the past by FCM. And I love the expression that she used at the end. She said, "We become stronger when we walk with others." And I thought that was so true, that when we have the opportunity to walk with others, to listen to others, to work together with others, we grow ourselves. So if you're interested in this idea, and if you'd like to go on the international stage, you've got 12 days to put in an expression of interest. And only after the expression of interest goes in and you get interviewed in the period between December 14th and 23rd, and then if you get selected, that's when council has to make a formal commitment to the project. But until then, you're kind of indicating an interest and being open to the possibility of getting involved. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. So this is truly our 12 days of Christmas that we get working on this. Thank you very much. Great presentation. And I know having this council, we're doing great work, you know, with all of council. Having a majority of females on our council has been great, different perspectives. And so I'm honored to be sitting with the four women and Ken. And so, but I think this is a great initiative, and yeah, definitely like to hear more. So Councillor Swift, go ahead.
Thank you. I think you came and presented to us last term, and there was some interest in the Ukraine at that time. Yeah. But in any event, if we were interested, what is involved? I heard you speak of travel, people coming to visit and so on. So could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. The opportunities would be that either elected officials, councillors, or staff could go to one of those countries on very short term, like 1 or 2 week periods to share their experiences. Or people from those countries would come here to spend a little time here and find out how things work in Comox. Now, initially, they told us this morning that for obvious reasons, it would be done remotely and you know, because of the public health considerations, virtually. But if that all eases up, and let's hope it does, then there could be actual in-person visits by people from those countries to here, or for you to go there. And in terms of costs, I mean, I'm sure every council is concerned about costs. All travel costs would be covered, all out-of-pocket expenses would be covered. Obviously, there'd be a commitment of time. If it turns out that you have to go to Zambia for 10 days, then obviously there's a commitment of time. But any out-of-pocket expenses would be covered by the project.
Thanks. Any other questions? Councillor McGowan.
Out of curiosity, how long does the program run for? There is an election next year, and so we might end up with less than 4. I don't know.
6 years. The project is for 6 years. And that's one of the good things, you know, from my experience in the past, is that you've got to make a commitment over a period of time. If you're going to work with these communities, you really need to be there for them for a period of time. And so it would be running for 6 years. Yeah, and it's $26 million. So Canada's making a very significant contribution. Yeah. I mean, if you end up thinking seriously about this, I might want to have suggest which country might be the best one for us to think about. But you know, there are 4 basically English-speaking countries that would be open. Well, I worked in Africa myself when I was a young man with CUSO, and I worked in Kenya. So I'm a bit partial to Africa, I have to say. But Zambia is a landlocked country in southern Africa, as you may know, and Ghana is in West Africa on the Gulf of Guinea. It's a pretty big country on the Gulf of Guinea. So I guess since you forced me to say, I would say Ghana or Zambia would be my personal choices, recommendations anyway.
And we do have a bilingual councillor here. So Councillor Bissinger, go ahead.
Sure, thank you for the presentation, Stuart. I guess question to the CAO, what's the process if we were to submit an expression of interest? Do we have to make a motion on it right now, or what would you like?
If we wanted to submit a expression of interest, the deadline you said was December 12th. You council can't provide direction in your strategic planning meeting, which is going to be on December 8th. So I would suggest that if you want to do this, that you move it to the end of the meeting. That's not typically best practice. It's usually you want to do first heard, deferred. So it'll be up to council whether you'd like to do that, and to add it to the agenda for decision today would require unanimous support of council to have it added to the agenda.
And that's unanimous support of the sitting councillors here today. Councillor Minion's not being here, but that's because she's excused. That's okay. And okay, do you have any more questions on this?
So just add it at the end, like under notice of motion or new business, or just so I'm understanding correctly, not missing. Basically, I would like to add it to the agenda if possible.
Right.
I'm getting at it.
Yeah.
I just don't know how.
Yeah. The CAO?
I'd suggest adding it to the last item on new business.
So I guess my question to that then is, if we put it off till the 8th, is there still time to get it done?
If I could get more lead time, knowing that this is something that can be done, I would appreciate it. I'd rather not have to, I shouldn't say it that way. It's just easier to work it into the work schedule if I have a longer lead time.
Right.
If we find out on the 9th, it becomes tougher what you can choose to take off and what to do.
Gotcha.
Stuart, you were saying there's what, 10 areas to fill out on this form? Are they pretty lengthy? Are we talking a couple pages per question?
It's not a long application,
No.
but there needs to be some thought in terms of the case that you're putting forward and the interest. There's some supplementary information that you can add about programs that Comox might be doing that have some relation to the themes of the project. So there's definitely a little bit of work in it, but having filled out and reviewed millions of government documents in my time, I'd certainly be happy to work with you on it.
And maybe that's something the CAO could take you up on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we will discuss it at the end of the agenda then.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other questions for Stuart? Appreciate you coming here and bringing that to our attention. Okay, so we'll move down to adoption of the regular council meeting minutes from November 17th.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Great, thanks. And now the consent agenda. So we have 4 items there. Can I get a motion?
Second.
And all in favor? And anybody would like to take any out? Councilor McGowan.
Thanks. The number 1 from Aaron Nowak, the Comox Valley Conservation Partnership.
I'll second.
Okay, all right, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was really disappointed to have missed this and not been able to attend. So I did send her a quick message today to see if there was any information she can send me, because the actual toolkit has not been fully released yet. But it looks like it's going to have some really great information that we can hopefully bring in and try to work into our already stellar services.
Right, and with that, when I was going through the agenda, I noticed this as well, and I sent her an email saying that, sorry, slipped this by, but we did get the email a week or 2 ago from the town that it's of the hundreds of emails we got that we missed. So I asked her if there's any information she could pass on. Maybe they recorded the webinar, or maybe we can get some other information. So, okay, so that's good. I don't think there's anything staff need to do on this one. It's just that get some awareness of it. So anything else people want to bring up? Okay, I would like to bring out 3 and 4.
Second.
Okay, and so for number 3, this one was from the airport, trying to get support for the Puerto Vallarta run that starts, I think, in January. They're not having much luck. There's been many letters, I understand, from the airport commission to various government agencies, but CIO, I'm wondering if we can just throw a letter of support in for the airport as well, and more the merrier. This is an area that's impacting the residents in Comox. This is the direct flights from Comox to Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, with a motion, we can do
Yeah.
that.
Okay, so we have that motion that the town sends a letter of support.
Second.
Okay, any questions on that? All in favor? Great, thank you. And for number 4, this is the requesting crosswalk and no parking signs. I know this is a bit of a challenging area. It's up on Knoll by Condor Park. One side has a sidewalk, the other side does not have because it's abutted to the park. But there is a path that comes out through a couple lots and then it leads over to the other side of the street. And I'm wondering if we have Shelley here still? Yes. So through the CEO to Shelley, is it possible to have a crosswalk put on a road that does not lead to another sidewalk?
We could, if not. We could, but it's not best practices to put in a crosswalk where it doesn't connect to another safe utility where the pedestrian could access. So when they see a crosswalk, they're anticipating that they're going to have that infrastructure on the other side of the road. So I would caution because that could create more of a safety concern as well. We do have the Knoll Avenue resurfacing and sidewalk proposed along that stretch of road in 2026, I believe, in our draft financial plan. So just to highlight that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I saw that as well. And, it just goes, Comox is growing leaps and bounds. And we have many of these little streets that don't have sidewalks, or the sidewalk comes to a dead end and then picks up on the other side of the street. So, but we are working through that and appreciate your support on that. So there's nothing further on that. So we'll move over to strategic planning and action items from December the 1st. Is there any questions? Councillor Swift.
This isn't a question, just a comment. I'm wondering if we could put this in the format it's in. Some of the jobs have been completed, and one way we've dealt with that in the past is to take it off the list, but I'm suggesting maybe we could color code it or something so that we can see really clearly which ones have been completed and which ones remain to be done. I know some of them are ongoing and will be forever, but it would just be a way of highlighting things differently in the list, similar to what's been done with our budgeting process and so on. So just a suggestion.
Yeah, and we did that at the end of last year. We'll be making sure to do that at the end of this year as well. So I look for that to be done for your December 15th council meeting, if my math is correct.
Nothing further? All in favor? Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the Mackling Shake Sites update. We've had a lot of communications back and forth. So we do have, I'll just go into this, a recommendation from the CAO. You see it there, but I'm going to read it out. That further to the resolutions the council made February 1st, 2017, December 6, 2017, March 6, 2016, May 15, 2019, in relation to the town of Comox application to vary the trust applicable to the money held by the town of Comox pursuant to the will of Hamilton Macklang. That was probated on March 2nd, 1982. The council of the town of Comox resolved that A, council approved the design modification of the proposed viewing platform to minimize disturbance to the Great Comox Midden by removing the requirement for a foundation on the reviewing platform and not constructing any new trails and paths. So, okay. No, I was just gonna ask. So we have a mover, we have a second.
Second.
Seconder, so for discussion. Councillor McGowan.
There we go. Yeah, having been through all that we have with this file, with the passionate opinions involved, I know that there's no way to make everybody truly happy, but I do believe that Macklang was very respectful and aware of the Indigenous people's lands. And had he realized that the area was as culturally significant in such a way as it is, I don't doubt he would have possibly come up with a different plan. Because, you know, on this current path of reconciliation and informed consent, it wasn't a thing when he was around. And I'm glad to have the KFN's input on this project. I think that it's a good way to compromise while showing all the great things that Mac Lang did through the artwork and the archives and museum, which is dedicated to continuing his legacy and showing things, his artwork and his work in general. You know, now that we know better, we can do better. And I hope that we can find that with this project.
Great, thank you. Any other further comments? All in favor? Okay, thank you. And B, council received a preliminary Class D construction project for the viewing platform prepared by Kinetic, and I'll go in. Yeah, okay. So seconder.
Second.
Any questions on that, Councillor Swift?
I think I'm needing a bit of clarification because I believe that budget is showing at about 494,000. Is that correct? Anyways, what I'm wanting is just clarification, because I think there were some items that could be taken out of that budget, and I'm just wondering, if we accept this budget, are we committing ourselves to that top number?
So you'll be committing yourselves to the cost, which is about, sorry, I've got to pull it up here. $326,381 is what it's estimated at right now. But what you would be doing through the totality of this motion is providing financial underpinning to the project. So if the project was to run over budget, those costs would be borne by the town of Comox.
Okay, but we have no idea what that means.
So we don't, yeah, to answer your question bluntly, no, we don't know what that final cost will be. We won't know until we get into detailed design. We won't know until we go out to actually tender, but we can't go out and tender this project until we have the petition amended by the court. Would it be possible for council to have this project and have the court give you an amended project, and then it comes in at an incredibly higher cost than what you've seen here? You could at that point go back to the court and start this process again and seek a different project. I do believe that council, we have provided, and what you have done as a council has gone and got high levels of due diligence on what the cost of this project is going to be. We've gone out a number of times and done the investigation, and getting this updated cost estimate provides some level of surety. But I think with what we've seen construction costs skyrocketing in the past few years, we can never be totally sure, but we do have cost escalation contingencies in this as well.
And also, as a follow-up with the 25,000 that we're expecting to take out of the trust funds and put into reserve, that also boosts our cost another 25, correct?
Correct.
So maybe around 350 would be our starting point.
So the total cost of the project is 326,000, and then the amount that would be contributed by the municipality, we estimated about 47,500 plus the 25,000 that you mentioned there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So the total cost to the municipality under this scenario would be approximately $75,000.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, and C, the council authorize the town contribution towards the budgeted costs above the trust amount, house demolition and landscape and trail restoration, if the court varies the trust applicable to the money given by Mac Lang's will to allow for the construction of the proposed viewing platform.
Second.
Questions, comments? All in favor? Thank you. And D, council authorized the payment of any additional amounts towards capital costs for the project to ensure that at least 25,000 from the trust remains available to be transferred to the viewing platform reserve fund contemplated by the town's proposed variation before the court.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments on that? Councillor Bissinger and then Swift.
I was just curious, like, I know at some point, there was mention of having, plaques and interpretive signs and, structures of any sort. Like, is there any of that still going to happen, or is that like a separate pot of money that we're talking about?
I'll let the CIO answer that.
That will still happen. We do anticipate that those costs will be within the budget that we provided to you here. We are waiting till we get to the detailed design phase before we start writing those. And we are also going to be providing some First Nations history at that point as well. And if the court does grant a variation of the trust to allow us to do this, we will re-engage with KFN to find out what portion of their history they'd like to talk about there. And we will also take a look at what part of MacLean history we are going to talk about there. So we don't know what the topics will be, but we do anticipate those costs are within the budget scope that we've given you. And if the court positively varies the trust, we will re-engage with KFN and start consultation on what to do in those panels.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Swift.
Thank you. This isn't directly related to the money, but having been around some workshops on coastal resilience and the rising tides that we're anticipating, maybe as much as 2 feet. I'm just wanting to make sure that whatever design occurs, that we have made some compensations for that, so that going forward, we're not going to be faced with having to put berms around things and whatnot. So if that can just be top of mind, I'm sure it's top of most people's minds these days, particularly if you're in the Lower Mainland. So that's what I would like to be considered for design. Thanks.
And I think, yeah, I'll let you speak for a second. I think that'll be part of the design that we come up with, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, it is something that we're going to look at, but what you say does highlight one of the design constraints that we do have down there. This is not an ideal location to have any sort of structure. We do know that it's going to flood. We do know that it's going to flood quite often. And as the rains, it's not just the rising sea levels, it gets quite wet down there when we have big storms as well. So it's something that we're going to take into consideration. I do believe the removal of the foundation and just having the posts will make that a little bit easier when damage does occur. It will be more easily fixed. But this is one of the more difficult areas I think we have in the town to construct these sort of things.
Okay, thank you. Any other further comments or questions? All in favor? Great, thank you very much. So we've got some direction there and I appreciate that. We'll move on now to speeding on town streets. So we do have a recommendation that we receive this report.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments on that? All in favor? Great, thank you. And didn't I say questions or comments?
Well, we kind of just approved it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking to myself, boy, we went through that one pretty fast. So, okay, any questions or maybe in my mind, I was hoping there was not. Okay, questions or comments? Councillor Grant and then Swift.
It's just, this is probably a good idea just to see if we can do something to calm the traffic. My question is, I think I'm stealing Councillor Swift's question, but why Ivy Place? Is that where the speed really is? Because are people coming off of Henderson and speeding up down that way? Or are they coming off Church and going the other way? Because I'm just trying to get a feel for why Ivy Place would be a spot where the speed seems to be the worst.
Typically, you put in what's recommended for the bulb outs is at an intersection, and that's where the intersection is along Buena Vista.
So the idea is to provide a pinch point along the street that will slow people down. So the complaints that I think, Shelley can correct me if I'm wrong, but the complaints that we've been getting from the residents on Buena Vista is that their speed traveling along the entire road is too high. So if you put the bulb outs there, you put them anywhere, it provides a pinch point and you hope that your people are going to slow down. And I think that's why the alternative recommendation is also coupled with the line painting, because with that length of street, putting one bulb out anywhere is not going to get people to slow down entirely. It should be an additional effect with the narrowing lanes as provided by which provided by street painting. But what we have proposed to council is to approach this with a low cost intervention, because what we are finding on that street is not out of ordinary or not out of our traffic calming policy for reaching the speeding levels. What's happening is that this street is just becoming more well used where it hadn't been in the past. So what we're providing are 2 low cost interventions, which will help to decrease speed rather than get into the more significant ones.
So is it possible then, if these are temporary, to move them if we find, because what I'm thinking here is if you're coming off of Church Street, you're still going to get a pretty good amount of speed before you get to any place. If you're going the other way, of course, it'll work really well. But that's why I don't know where the traffic is coming from. And if, you know, you may want to find if it's coming off Church Street that you move them down closer to church. So I don't know how mobile these things are or how temporary they are.
There's a picture on page 124 of the agenda that just shows the temporary infrastructure that we would use just to see, and then we'll monitor the traffic over the 2-year program to see what we're proposing with this temporary measure for the bulb outs, and then the line painting, as the CAO mentioned, in regards to having that visual as well. So that creates a driver awareness of where the travel should be occurring. And then we can, collect some more data and see how it's doing. And then we can modify it as needed, because as you can see from the picture, it's not anything that's permanent, so that we can easily move it around. The pinch point typically why you put the bulb outs at an intersection is that it also creates a safe crossing distance for pedestrians. So we have a crosswalk at that location as well. So it's the pedestrian can cross at a much smaller width as opposed to having like a wider road to cross. So and then they'll be more visible to the motorists as well. But,
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Swift.
Well, I'd like to give the residents a feeling that they've been heard and that they feel that their situation has been improved. I'm really struggling with supporting this because it's our evidence that we have collected so far. It doesn't indicate that it's warranted, and I think we really become subject to a few people in the neighborhood that really are concerned. And how do we decide, you know, this neighborhood gets it, the next neighborhood wants it, and so on. And so when we stray from being evidence-based, then we're really subject to lobbying, I guess. And I went down Buena Vista today, and I thought, coming from Church Street, you could really get speed going if you all the way down to Ivy, and then you've got about a block before Anderton. So I don't know that you've improved very much on the street. Going the other way, the opposite could happen. You know, you slow down for as you get to Ivy, but then you can whip up the rest of the street. So I'm not really sure that this is the answer that's going to help the neighbors. I appreciate it's a pilot program, but given that we've just done the traffic study and it didn't stand out, and we did the traffic counting and it didn't fall in the 85th percentile, I think I'm inclined not to support this.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Bissinger.
Thanks. I guess I'm a bit unclear as to what like basically we're voting on recommendation right now, not the alternative to the recommendation.
Yeah, so
what is
that's
the
what threw me at the
recommendation?
beginning. So we had Councillor Grant moved the recommendation that council receives its support for information or discussion. So that's where we're at right now. So there is no motion on the table.
So there's no modifications in
CAO,
receiving the
he's
report?
giving me the evil eye over there. So
Yeah, so what we've done, but you generally don't provide motions in the negative. So we wouldn't provide with motion to say don't do anything. So what staff has done is provided you with a recommendation for information, which basically says the same thing. We're not recommending any action should be taken. The reason why administration is not recommending action should be taken is because the intervention that council is considering here under the alternative falls outside of our policies. And it's generally our responsibility to recommend you actions within your policies. It is council's role to examine it and find when your policies are insufficient and provide different direction. So that's why the recommendation right now is to receive for information, and council has the alternative recommendation to provide action outside of policy.
So I guess just a follow up then. So if we were to accept the report as it is and not make any other recommendations, like I'm assuming the residents probably haven't even seen this in our agenda because I haven't received any communications at all from them. So before, putting this on the table, spending some money that might not actually be desirable, like, can we bring this back at a later date?
Yes, and if council would like us to do a direct engagement with the residents of Bona Vista to find out if this is a desired solution, we can. If that's what you're asking, sorry.
Yeah. I kind of leaning towards what Councillor Swift was saying, that this doesn't fall within the parameters that we need to do anything right now. These are good things to do. Anything we can do to calm traffic, but where does it end? So would we normally go out to any street and go to them and say, what do you think? Do you want us to do something? I'm just wondering, it's kind of getting into a blurry area here.
I'm not aware of Comox doing that sort of area specific engagement for these type of items in the past. That's not to say it couldn't be done in the future. I think what council's seen already though is from the correspondence that you've got in is differing opinions on what infrastructure should be provided, right? I think that you had a number of letters saying we'd like a sidewalk and a number of other letters saying, no, we don't want a sidewalk. So I'm not sure you're going to get the level of clarity. And I guess I would just ask council if everybody said that they wanted it, does that change your mind on what you're going to do, right? If everybody in a street wants something, will that change the way that you're going to proceed? I'm not sure it will. If it does, then we can go. But I would generally say if you're going to do communication on these sort of things, you should be prepared to act. And if you're not prepared to act, then the communication just becomes setting a level of expectation.
Okay, I'll let Stephanie go and then Councillor Grant.
Yeah, I'm actually on the kind of agreeing there with Councillor Swift in that the decisions that we make have to be kind of based on best practices and the data that we have. And if we open this up and kind of do specifically what this one road asks, then what stops the rest of Comox. And we do already get a lot of requests for specific things that a neighborhood would like or not like to happen, whether it be sidewalks or speeding. There's multiple other areas in this report that show that speed is an issue through the area. So I don't know if doing this in one specific place is either going to help or just open up a can of worms. So yeah, I think we need to kind of stick with the data at this point.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Grant.
Yeah, I guess Councillor Swift has reminded me of over the years, the number of these kinds of things that we get before us. And it's usually 2 or 3 or 4 a year. And, basically we could be running around chasing every street in town if we wanted. And I guess, when you look into the fact that I think Jordan's probably right, that it's just, there's more cars on it since the pub opened rather than the fact that it's, it's just in a growing community. You get more cars on roads when you do things like that. So, I think we could be chasing our tail here a lot if we aren't careful. So I guess I'm agreeing with Councillor Swift, as funny as that might be.
So the motion that we have is that council receives this report for information / discussion. I mean, it doesn't mean that we can't come back to this in a month, in 2 months, in 6 months. Councillor Bissinger.
Yeah, I'll vote against the recommendation because I know at some point we had like $500K earmarked for sidewalks on Buena Vista, and I think an $8,000 pilot study is way cheaper and easier to address. And it's not just like one resident, like it's been basically all of the residents on that street that have concerns with safety and for child safety and pets that have been run over. So I think something needs to be done. And, you know, if the way of the future is to not action something right now, I would like to see something done there eventually. So I would vote against the recommendation and put something forward in the near future, hopefully.
Okay, thank you. I have a question through CEO to Shelley. My big thing is I've always talked about traffic calming, speed humps, and I know the town historically is not in favor of them. I reached out to the mayor of, I think it was Comox, Brian Fries. Is that the mayor? Anyway, there's a street that they put speed humps on. It's a main thoroughfare, and I went on the street because there was a detour, and there was the speed humps, and I thought, oh, this is pretty good. You know, it slowed people down. And I reached out to the mayor and their public works folks, and they put it out. They're not really having any concerns with it. It seems to be working well for the community. I'm just wondering, could this be something that you could put a speed hump on? I know there's been talk about, you know, fire engines and that, but I know we can make them that the wheelbase is wider on a fire truck than it is for a car. So you can make it wide enough that it would impact the car, but not wide enough that it would impact the fire truck. So is that something that we could look at on this road? And I'm not going to put a motion for it, just for discussion. I'm going to keep hammering home these speed humps because I think there's something worthwhile.
There's the speed humps, the speed tables, and speed cushions, and kind of exactly what you're talking about in regards to the emergency vehicles going through it with the axle. We put in voids into that hump so that their axles can go through it without having them to slow down. That's called the speed cushion. That's recommended in there as well. We can put that on. It's a local road, neighborhood road. So that's an application that we could put on it. I think the speed humps range from $5,000 to $7,000 per hump. And it's more effective if you have more than one, because a lot of motorists will slow down for them, but then they'll feel that they've lost 2 seconds or a second and speed up to try to make up for it. So speed humps definitely has its issues as well as benefits. So it's just something that we hear more of concerns from the public, concerns from the people who live on the street, because you have that acceleration, deceleration, it's noise, pollution wise, it's a little bit worse. So that's kind of, it's always kind of like half the neighborhood would want it, the other half doesn't. So it's kind of ones that I would caution, but it's definitely something that if council wants to consider, it's a road that could probably be looked at. I did follow up with my counterpart from Qualicum Beach as well to find a little bit more of the speed humps that they installed. And the speed humps, and you're right, it was based on the detour because they're building a roundabout in Qualicum Beach. So that particular road was seeing a lot more traffic, a lot more speeding, because when people have detours, of course, they want to make up time. So that's why they put the speed humps in. He did say that they're keeping and looking at the speed. They put out some speed tubes just to compare. And he said she could share the data with me, but I said it's fine. So just anecdotally, he said that the speed has not reduced. I think he said originally it has, but now that people know where they are, and so they just speed up, slow down, go across, and then speed up to get over it. So I think they were kind of just keeping them in there temporarily because of the detour, and I think their plan was to remove them as well, or in the future.
Well, yeah, I didn't get that, and I think it was Eagle Ridge Crescent, if my memory serves me right. But they looked like they were permanent. They weren't just those plastic ones that you bolt down into the asphalt. So and the mayor there didn't give me an indication that they'd be taken out. I'm just wondering, you know, I get where Councillor Bissinger's coming from, that, you know, the residents are looking for something, but if we were to put this pilot project for a couple of years, and generally that leads to a permanent fixture there, because you're not going to spend $8,000. And then that's going to be a lot of money to put those bulbs out on the four corners there if we did that at Ivy. So I just keep coming back, and I wonder if, you know, if we just receive this for information, but still keep our thinking caps on and seeing what we can do here, because I would support just voting this in favor of receipt and not doing anything at this point. But I'm not saying that we should not do anything. I think something needs to be done. I don't think this this temporary corner bulbing is the way to go myself. So any other questions from council on this? So, oh, sorry, Councillor Swift.
Well, I know the residents are concerned with all the increase in traffic, and I'm not suggesting that this is not, that something isn't warranted, but maybe the time to do it is when the upgrading of Church Street occurs, and then it can be all tied together. So it's just something to think about. I'm not in favor of this, so I'm not sure if I just defeat it. Is that what I should do?
The motion on the floor right now is to receive for information. So if you want to take no action, you should vote in the affirmative on this motion.
All right, so all in favor of the motion. And so that's 4 and opposed. Okay, 1 opposed. Thank you. And I know on Robb Avenue where I live, it's getting busier too. And I had the unfortunate incident of my pet cat getting killed in the summer. And it is tragic when that happens. And, you know, Comox is growing in leaps and bounds. We see it every day. And, you know, it's a struggle to keep up with it. And we're doing the best we can on all the streets, because every street is important to us. So, okay. So we are on Recreation Access Pilot Program for Comox Valley Youth. So this is to be part of the pilot project for the Regional Leisure for Everyone Accessibility Program. So any questions or comments on this? All in favor? That was an easy one, wasn't it? Okay, and we will move down to downtown parking. So we've got a couple there that council directs staff to amend bylaw 1358, a bylaw to regulate traffic and the use of streets within the town of Comox Schedule A parking restrictions. So 1, to remove the 2-hour parking.
Second.
Any questions or comments on that?
Interestingly enough, today I was walking out of town hall and a guy had a ticket in his hand. He was parked in front of Church Street and got a ticket. And he was looking for a bylaw bill to complain. And I said, well, you know, it's getting worse, not better, because you're not going to get an hour anymore. You're going to get 15 minutes. So
Yeah.
the timing was quite funny, but
Yeah,
anyway, I think it's a good move.
I think that is too, especially for those couple little shops there. So anything else? Any other comments? All in favor? And 2, to remove the 2-hour parking restriction north side of 1700 Balmoral.
Good.
And seconder, any questions, comments? All in favor? Oh, you had one? Okay.
Not really doing it for the parking, just our friends on bikes, and I haven't seen that parking sign changed yet.
I saw an email from one fellow there that said, thank you, that it was taken care of. So, yeah. 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 Yeah, no, he texted me 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Okay, so all in favor of the 1700 Balmoral? Okay, good, thank you. And so the part that you're all looking forward to, the capital special projects budget.
Second.
Okay, so we have some recommendations here. So we have 4 recommendations.
Well, I'd like to just keep those in abeyance until after we have a look at at least our projects list and see what it is we want to do with them. And I'd also have some questions for the CAO on some of the projects as well, so.
Okay, so, and we are getting closer to the time where we're going to have to make a decision on these things, and I understand, you know, one feeds into the other. So, you know, another meeting or 2, but we're going to have to start ramping it up here soon. So, there was a question to the CAO from Councillor Grant. Do you want to go first, or Councillor Bissinger? Go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe just to like get some of them going, should we go through them line by one and just say, like, are we ready to vote or not on it? And if we're not, then we can put it aside. Like, can we do that on project basis or the ones that are highlighted anyway? I know it might take a while, but if there's only a few that you have like questions on, we could just keep those for later.
Well, okay, so I guess what my question was to do with the list on page, whatever, page 149 that they put with our new projects, because I think a lot of the ongoing ones aren't going to make a heck of a lot of difference to our budget, as Jordan told us last week. Any of those are more maintenance and you know, we kind of have to do those. And it reminds me of old Mayor Ives used to always say, you know, you get the budget, 97% of the budget's already spent. But I think in our case, 110% of the budget's already spent. So what I'm wondering about on the new project list and basically in general, how much does it matter if we take one of those out? Like, what do we, like, if we did the whole list, what would the tax implication of that be? And if we took, I don't know, the Marine Services building, I'm just picking one, you know, what difference does that make? Because until you know what the value is of that and what it's going to do to your budget, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, this could be a 25% tax increase. It could be a 2% tax increase. I don't know. So I find it really difficult to do it this way without knowing the actual, what the ramifications are when we do it. I mean, they're all good projects. There's nothing bad in the whole group. It's just a matter of, you know, how much impact does it have when we get moving forward? So I guess you know, one of the reasons why I didn't want to make any recommendations tonight was that I'd like to know that, like, if we took the, you know, for instance, where's a good one here? Software acquisition, 50,000. What does that do to our budget? Website redesign. Do we really need to do that? You know, 75,000. If it has a very minor impact, then maybe we do, but it might have a big impact, and I don't know the answer to that. So,
Yeah. You know, there is lots of questions, and then Councillor Bissinger, I understand what you're saying. We go line by line, but we do have Councillor Minions missing tonight. We do have Councillor-elect Kerr, who will be joining us next meeting. And if we're not prepared to pass this, which I fully understand, this is a big ticket item, maybe we just bring it back to the next meeting, and you know, and then the meeting after that, then we have a full council. Councillor Bissinger, does that make kind of sense?
Yeah, it makes sense for me. It was just like,
Yeah.
if staff needs to get going on like purchasing GPS equipment for $5,000, I just wouldn't want to hold that up if it's required. But
Yeah, that's fair
December
enough.
15th, like if everyone's gonna be around December 15th, I think that's a good idea.
CAO, what's your thoughts on that? Would you like some of those little housekeeping ones just cleared off, or?
No, staff hasn't requested pre-approval on any of these items. Again, council's policy is that you would be making decisions on these in January. I think that maybe what we can do is, maybe rather than moving this to December 15th, I would maybe put it out to council that over the next couple of weeks, for everybody to come in and find and have conversations about what information that you want. You know, what are you uncomfortable about in certain projects? We can put all that information together to come back to the first regular meeting in January. And we would just all come into that meeting knowing that at that meeting, you need to be prepared to come in ready to make a decision on the projects.
So that first meeting in January is when you want this finalized?
I'd have to check the policy. You may have till the second meeting, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
But let's say first meeting in January, that would give everybody a chance to, again, find the information that you need to be comfortable and make the decisions. And then we would target that as a decision-making meeting. Now, I can't tell council that's how to do it.
No.
It's up to you and whether or not you want to waive your policies, but it's a suggestion.
Yeah, no. Thank you. Councillor Grant.
yeah, so I guess for me, this is a real departure in budgeting, and last year was kind of the same. And I really find it like you're asking us to approve everything with no idea what the implications are. And I just find that really hard to do, because I have no clue what this all ends up looking like. You know, I know that when I asked Clive at the last meeting what a 5% tax increase looked like and how long it took to double your taxes, and the answer to that, he had the magic number. I forget what it was now, but it's 14 years, and that's not sustainable. So, you know, when we look at this, you know, for me to be able to pass any of this, I need to know what the implications of all of these things are. Like, you know, we've got the Comox Avenue Sidewalk project at almost $1 million. Now I know it's a grant project, but you know, I look at that and it's only really impacting about 20 houses. And so I don't know what taking that out of our budget, what the implication of that, probably not big because it's granted. But then if you look at the Marine Services building at 1.6, that's $600,000 in our budget. And I think that, you know, without picking on that one, you have to actually really understand what the implications are before you just say yes to it. I'm not saying it's not a good project. I just think that without knowing what the outcome is, I think you got the cart before the horse here. That's my take on it.
Yeah, well, some of those CAO, we would be digging into our reserves a bit. For example, if we didn't get any further grants for the Marine Services building, we would go into our reserves for the Marine Services building, correct?
Yeah, and so the yearly budget spend when you're getting into capital is not really the big concern. You have healthy reserves that you can draw down on. You also have a very large amount of money that you could borrow if you ever need it. What I would say that you need to be keeping your eye on is how much does adding a piece of infrastructure or adding a service add to your yearly cost, right? The cost of that infrastructure should be borne over the life of it. If you're putting in a sidewalk for 50 years, you don't need to pay for those 50 years up front. You want to be able to pay for it over the 50 years that people are going to be getting its life, getting its use. So you need to look at what are the yearly costs that you're going to take on for the operation of something, and then what are the yearly costs you're going to take on for having to maintain it and replace it as well. So, you know, for the Marine Services building, I can bring you that number. For the sidewalk, I can bring you that number. And as we move through and adopt our asset management planning, those numbers are going to be provided to you. And I would suggest that we will be bringing recommendations to council that those numbers are included in all of your budgetary decisions moving forward. So you know what is the yearly increase in income you are going to be required to get in order to maintain a piece of infrastructure you add.
Councilor Gray.
Yeah, and so for me, I'd like to know where we stand if we did none of these new projects, and then where we stand as we add them in. Right, so that way, then you can look and go, well, if we're at 5% now, and then we add, you know, 9 things, we're at 10%. Well, we know where we are then. We know what we can do and what we're comfortable with. Right now, I'm not comfortable because I don't know where we are even to begin with. So I think you said about 5% increase just for what we've got going now without any new ones, or did I mishear that last meeting?
So in order to cover our increase in costs that we have this year, I'm going to estimate that we probably need about a 3% tax increase. So to cover their increase in costs, we're going to need about 3%, but we also have an infrastructure funding deficit that we need to make up. And that infrastructure funding deficit is what we talked about at the last meeting. And that's 2 million. So it's a much bigger number that we're talking about.
Councilor Bissinger, go ahead.
Sorry, maybe just to follow up on what Councillor Grant was asking. So the 3%, like, does that include? I know we just increased like the parcel tax, we increased the water tax, we increased the sewer tax. Like, does that 3% include all those increases? Because those are, I know they're like not a huge amount, but they're still, you know, maybe 1 or 2%. So are we looking at, you know, 5 or 6% already, or not?
So the 3% increase is outside of those increases, but it doesn't add on, because as you increase the funding pool from which you're collecting, the percentages would stay the same, right? So doing a 3% increase on your regular tax bill plus a 3% increase on your parcel taxes isn't 3 plus 3 equals 6, because you're expanding the base on what you're adding to. So the total tax bill would still be a 3% increase. Having said that, if your question was, does the increase that we've already approved on those parcel taxes decrease our need to get 3% on the other side? No, it does not.
It's just one more quick question on the new projects. It's a little bit unrelated, but we have Lazo Road resurfacing, and then it's expansion of service, and then Lazo Greenway. Are those two tied together? Like, is that somewhat the same project? Or like, we're going to resurface a road and then we're going to build a walkway along. Is that what we're doing there, or am I confused here?
The Lazo Greenway is from Balmoral going towards Guthrie, that section of Lazo.
Oh, okay,
For the,
gotcha.
the
Yeah,
Greenway, and then
gotcha.
there's a small section, and we're working with the CBRD and Ministry of Transportation
Yes.
on that. And then the Lazo Road resurfacing is the frontage along the foreshore, basically from the campground to the end of High Bay, the boundary there.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I understand now. Yeah, so they're kind of tied together, but not really. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, those are two great projects too, that we really need to see. So anything further from council? We'll just leave this as be just for information and start putting our thinking caps on, reaching out to staff and having these discussions during daytime, and come back and have some votes on this. So, all right, so we'll move down to joint working group of the substance use strategy report.
Your worship.
Yes.
You do have a motion on the table that you should deal with, which is to receive for.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Sorry,
we
wait,
do.
do we? Sorry, maybe I'm wrong.
No, actually.
Oh, you moved receipt. Okay, so then it should be, was that voted on or just discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do need to close that motion.
Okay, so all in favor of receipt? All right, thank you. And yeah, so moving down to the request for the staff support.
Second.
So questions, comments? Councilor McGowan.
Well, again, I think it's a good idea. I don't think that they're gonna be taking too much time. Like they, I think it was CAO Jordan or Wall said that it should probably be like maybe a couple hours a month, depending on what project is going on. And this is something that's touching everybody's lives. I had a friend pass away over the weekend from this issue. So there's nobody that it hasn't touched, I think, and it's a crisis. We need to do everything we can for it. And if we have the ability to, I would do it. Save lives.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? What did I read? Was it 10 or 12 hours? The link is not working for me, but was it 10 or 12 hours CAO that they were looking for? So can we put a cap on that? And just, being mindful of like the program creep where we say we can do 10 or 12 hours and something happens and then we're, sticking it with Shelley for, 3 weeks. And not that it doesn't warrant that help, but, we are skeleton crew here, so.
You can, it's up to council what you want to commit to. So right now, I think what I told council in the email was that I think they're anticipating about 10 to 12 hours a year, about an hour a month. Where it goes from there, we don't know, because at this point it's just exploratory. Maybe I would suggest, rather than putting a hourly limit on it, because that would I could see that getting really difficult. But let's say we're at council puts a 12-hour limit on it where you only need to commit 13. That's kind of awkward. If you want to have additional controls on what you're committing, why don't you put a time frame on it and say, you authorize staff to work on this for 2022, and at the end of 2022 you reevaluate whether or not you want to recommit into the future.
But do we not want to put a time frame, a time limit on that 2022? Because it could work out to be a full-time position. No, I don't know. I'm just wondering.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that if it
Okay.
becomes a problem, that whoever the staffer that goes could say, hey, this is getting out of hand. And
Yeah,
we can do
okay.
it. So I don't think we need to get too sticky.
Okay,
I think it's a good organization. I don't think they're looking to overburden us, but if it does get that way, we can always deal with it.
yeah, okay. That sounds good to me then. So we'll put a motion out from somebody to make a commitment for the year 2022. Second, any other further questions or comments on that? All in favor? Great, thank you. So bylaw adoptions, we got 4, that the Comox refuse collection amendment bylaw number 1985.
Then I'll move that.
1585, yeah. Okay, so it's moved and second. Any questions on that? All in favor? And that the Comox Water Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw number 1991 be adopted.
Move.
Second.
Questions? All in favor? And that the Comox Sewer Rates Amendment Bylaw 1992 be adopted.
Move.
Second.
Questions on that? All in favor? And that the Comox, so this is where I will recuse myself and let Councillor Bissinger take over. She's the acting mayor for the month, so.
All right, so that bylaw number 1993, a bylaw to establish fees and regulations for using the Comox Municipal Marina be adopted.
Move.
All in favor or discussion? Sorry. Yep. All in favor?
Let's not tell them. Let's just move on. How did you know?
That last remark is still in my.
Yeah.
Respect, Russ. It's hard to do this and do that at the same time.
Yeah.
You get lost.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Bissinger. So Comox Sanitary Sewer and Water Services Parcel Tax Bylaw 1994 for adoption.
Second.
Questions? All in favor? All right, so under new business, guess we had a bit of a hiccup there last week or two. So we've got the CBRD appointment updates that number one, that Councillor McGowan and myself be appointed as alternates to the Comox Regional District Board.
I'll move that. And I'll
Second.
move the and as well.
Oh, yeah, and that the Town of Comox Councillor Mayor serve as a replacement for a regular member who is unable to attend a Comox Valley Regional District regular board meeting. So we have a mover and seconder on that. Any questions on that? Councillor Bissinger?
So just because elected Councillor Kerr is on the hospital board, should we also add him in on here? I know it says any councillor can attend, but at least he would have to be also an alternate to the CBRD board for that hospital one.
Good question. CIO, do we need to?
We will be bringing a report on the December 15th meeting to address that, but as Councillor-elect Kerr is not a member of council yet, you can't appoint him to these boards in your place.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so December 15th, that will be addressed.
All right. Okay, so all in favor of that? Great, thanks. And that the regular move
Second.
to, okay. All right, so any questions on that? All in favor? Great, thank you. So you're going to,
Oh, our
Just under new
Motion.
business.
yeah, no, I was
Okay.
actually going to get to that part there. So, yes, so you wanted to bring up that earlier part. Mhm.
I'm not sure exactly of the wording, but basically to make a motion that council put together council direct the CAO to provide a expression of interest for the FCM PAWILL.
CMIWIL.
whatever that thing was.
With the assistance of Mr. Stuart Giddings.
Yeah. So there's a
I'll second
move
that.
and second. Okay, so for discussion on that. CAO, have you looked at that form? Because I do recall this coming back to us. Councillor Swift, you reminded me that you brought it up about the Ukraine a number of years ago. And it seemed to be a little onerous at that time, but you think, would you be able to take the fellow up on his offer that he could help us out with that?
Yeah, the application, I haven't looked at the application. It's just expressive interest, so this will grow in the amount of staff time that's going to be required. It'll grow in the amount of coordination that's going to be required by staff for booking of flights, for arranging people coming, where they're going to stay. All of those things will be handled by our staff if we go. I can say that I have been involved in these projects before, and they are very rewarding for the communities and people that are able to participate in them. A very similar program I was connected with from Port St. John. They had a female mayor and a female CIO, and they went to a country in South America. I can't remember, but it was a mining company, and they went up into the mountains, no cell coverage, no radio, to talk to them about how they can mobilize to ensure that they mining companies were providing community benefits so that clean water could be issued and stuff like that. So Tumbler Ridge also had a delegation coming over from the Ukraine. I'm familiar with these projects. It is a larger amount of work than what it seems on the front. So I would encourage you to go into that with your eyes open. And it's not just staff. The big commitment is going to be from the councillors who will be requested to take these trips and to shepherd people through the community and to be those liaisons. So just really think about whether or not you're willing to make that time commitment. And this is specifically to the female members of council who would be asked to take that role. It will be a time commitment from you.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great opportunity for the town as well as one of you. So any other questions? Councillor McGowan, then Swift.
It's not really so much a question as just, I think it's a really cool opportunity. And I think putting in the expression of interest, we can kind of see more information about it, find out exactly kind of what kind of time commitment and a little more information. Because yeah, I would love to see us getting involved, but I also know how stretched staff can be at this point already. So I don't want to hinder your great work, but yeah, it'd be a really, really interesting thing to, and probably just a goodwill thing that we could do. And yeah, very interested.
Good, thank you, Councillor Swift.
I'm just wanting to clarify. He said it was a 6-year commitment. Is that correct? So that, if we signed on and, lives go on, but you're committed for 6 years, whether you're on council or not?
It wouldn't be an individual commitment, it's an organizational commitment. So if you were to no longer be a member of council, you may have somebody take your place. You may request that the council continue to use you as an ambassador because you're connected into the project, right? Let's say that you were to go through the next 5 years of this project, and then for year 6 you're not there. It may be that it would be decided that you wanted to stay in council. They would ask you to continue finishing up the work. So it's an organizational commitment, not a personal commitment for 6 years.
Great, thanks. Any other questions, comments? All in favor? Right, great, thank you. And we don't have any members of the public, and unless, of course, Mr. Kerr, no, okay. Reports from members of council. We'll start Councillor Swift and go around the room.
Thank you. I apologize for the length of this report. I'll try and make it as succinct as possible. I attended the Comox Strathcona Regional Hospital Board, and they're exploring the possibilities of a health hub in the Comox Valley, long-term care and transitional care for Campbell River, and expanding the main facilities for grants. And they passed a provisional budget, and the hospital debt is scheduled to be paid off in 2028. So that was good news. I attended the CVRD board meeting November 23rd, and Jesse Kettler was elected as chair, and Arzina Hamir again as vice chair. We talked about the code of conduct policy that we also had dealt with here, and a zero emissions fleet policy was discussed, which was kind of an interesting discussion and something that we might like to consider going forward. And basically it's replacing, as they need fleet replacement, they will be considering at least a zero emissions vehicle. The original or the outlay to purchase a vehicle is greater, but the ongoing maintenance is less. So there's some that will be more suitable than others. So it'll be something to explore going forward. And Director Arbor is going to continue as the member on the library board. I attended the Game Changers report back discussion over the poverty reduction strategy. And I think there's going to be more information coming forward at the board level, so we'll wait till then. I attended this community to community forum, and the topics were, I think most of you were there anyway, but coastal resilience and poverty reduction. Okay, and I attended the Walk With Me session on Sunday, walking through Courtney, as did some others of us. And it was a really interesting experience. And thankfully the weather was good and was really enlightening. And I attended the Philburg board meeting. They are planning to have the festival this year. They're working hard at, getting a contract with their producer, a new fellow this year. And so they're in the initial stages, but unless there's something that prevents it from Bonnie Henry's department, they're going to have the festival. So they're really pleased with that because it is their major fundraising event, and without it the last 2 years, they've been struggling. Which brings me to, they are absolutely thrilled at the prospect of the town taking on the fire suppression system. And I know Gord has been down to the lodge a couple of times to just assess it. So I guess we'll be getting more information coming forward from that. And their gift shop is doing really well. If you haven't been there, it now goes through the entire lodge. And they've reorganized it a little bit differently. They're going to be open 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, up until Christmas. So go and have a look if you want something. And they are looking for a new executive director, effective at the end of February. So it's a great appointment. If you know anybody that's looking for that kind of work, it would be great to direct them to there. And lastly, the mobility forum, which I attended yesterday via Zoom. And that's my report.
Maybe you or Ken can remind me, but I do believe Comox was the first community to have a zero emissions vehicle. Isn't it? We have the fleet car now that's zero emissions, but I don't believe Courtney or the regional district had one
think
before
the
us.
RD had one just
Had they?
before, but it was right around the same time.
Okay.
Like, it was within a month or so.
So we've had a zero emissions fleet car for how long? 2012.
We bought it
pushing-
with gas tax money back.
pushing
back
10 years.
in the day,
Yeah. And it's still going strong. So that's good. And, and I think as we move forward, and the fire chief and I were speaking the other day about, I don't think we're ready for electric fire trucks yet, but, maybe like one of their vehicles, like the first responders or so, as we get moving, that could be electrified. And I think we have to start picking up that and looking at what our options are, whether it's leaf blowers, lawnmowers, but start moving in that direction. So thanks, Councillor Grant.
Yeah, I attended the mobility in the Comox Valley study yesterday that was put on by the CVRD. And interestingly enough, in that from 2006 to 2019, to most everybody's big surprise, there was very little change in usage. As a matter of fact, bike rides were 2%. They stayed at 2%. They were actually a little bit lower. It actually dropped a little bit, believe it or not. Walking trips were slightly up. Car trips, 75%, at exactly the same. And transit stayed at 2%. So it was a bit of a shocker, I think, to most of the people there, and especially the staff at the CVRD kind of went, well, we got to really change the way we think about this kind of stuff, because we're pouring a lot of money in and not getting results. So I thought it was an interesting report from that perspective. And, I think that we should really kind of review what we're doing and see if there's a better way as well. I also attended the Walk With Me with Councillor Swift and Mayor Arnott. I got invited to a BIA meeting, which is why I missed the CVRD meeting. And it was a bit of a throwback to years gone by. And we had all the old board there along with the new board, and just had a really good meeting on what we could do to help enhance things in Comox, get better and more lively events, things that they're looking for. One thing that they really kind of hit on was the need for a hotel, which I think we all know. And a boutique hotel is more what they were thinking in terms of, but they just really don't even know how to go about doing that kind of thing. And it's not easy. So my suggestion to them was they need to be more engaged with the council. And they need, like when we're doing things that affect the town, or the downtown, they need to have a voice in that, and we need to know what they're thinking. So, we brought that to them. I also attended the Brooklyn Creek Watershed AGM, and hopefully I'll have some more on that at a later date. It's probably better for in-camera discussions as we move forward. And this morning I attended an online presentation by Toyota on hydrogen and fuel cell vehicles. And one of the things that came out of that was that for heavier trucks or trucks in general, any of the heavy equipment, that they believe that hydrogen fuel cell is probably the right way to go. It's not quite ready yet, but it's got many better applications for the kinds of things that we do than electric do. Electric are good for the cars and they're fine for the short trips, but when you need heavy duty equipment, and I always think about Abbotsford, and all the stuff that went on, and they get the call to action and the power's out and the fleet's down, and they've got such a short window. So and they kind of mentioned that type of scenario on here. And so they were kind of really saying that the hydrogen fuel cell vehicles are really becoming back into favor and becoming, they see it becoming much more mainstream as we move forward. So I thought that was just an interesting view of it. So, and that's what I did.
Great, thank you very much. And Councillor Kissinger.
Sure thing. So kind of in the same vein as Councillor Grant, I actually met with a rep from Fortis BC, and he was actually going over how they're doing a lot of research on hydrogen fuel cells, as well as renewable natural gas and biogases for like long range hauling in vehicles and stuff like that. And he also mentioned some opportunities for like energy specialists, if there's any savings that the town of Comox could see in natural gas usage. So that was kind of interesting, and I'll chat with Jordan some more. Also attended the mayor's tree lighting, which I think a lot of people here did. It was awesome. Did the community first half of it anyway, mobility forum, and then I think that's all I had there, and dealt with some fun stuff at the base.
Yeah. Okay, and Councillor McGowan.
All right, where are we? Okay. I also attended the community forum, Comox Valley Food Policy Council meeting of the whole. We talk a lot about the food hubs, food distribution, and looking at school food programs. And especially right now with I had earlier today a municipal food disruption subcommittee meeting, and with all of the issues in the lower mainland and stuff right now, and having our food supply disrupted. We're looking at how to get food to people who are vulnerable when it's not even coming to the island. I attended the Christmas tree light up as well. Walk with me for elected officials. I ended up walking to the Campbell River Tape, as I have been to the other two already. And it was really interesting to hear perspectives from a little bit north of us. And it was really touching and wonderful to see how many people in leadership positions were there, and seem really committed to trying to make a difference here. Also attended the hospital board meeting, where we went over that stuff. I ended up missing the CAMS meeting, the Museum and Archives, unfortunately, because it's the same time as the hospital board meeting. Yeah, and that's about it, I think.
Okay, thank you. For myself, I attended the Comox Valley Chamber of Commerce. This was a lot of the organizations in the valley came and just spoke about what they do. So it was good to hear from them. The Courtney tree lighting, and along with Councillor Grant, a hybrid BIA meeting talking about past, present, and future, and it was good getting the brainstorming of some of the previous members on there. The community to community forum I attended, the Comox mayor's tree lighting event. I have to give my acknowledgement to the town staff for the great work that they do in putting that together, the BIA for working with the town and getting the merchants, because I think that was the best mayor's tree lighting event yet. The street was closed off. There was a lot of hustle and bustle going on. And next year we'll figure out that when one plug to light the tree and the star at the same time. But it just added to the excitement of it all. So yeah, so it was great. So thank you to the town, to their employees, and to the BIA, the merchants, for coming out and doing all that. I attended on last Saturday night the fire hall award celebration. Again, it too was a bit of a hybrid, but we just stayed apart and presented their members with their awards, long service awards, and it was good. We have one of our firefighters, Elsie Gilroy, and she's a volunteer firefighter. She's also I believe an aviator with 442, and she was called to duty, and so she was part of the group going out on the 442, out with 442 on the Cormorant to help people that were stranded. So she got an acknowledgement award from D&D on that, and we did as well from the mayor, give her acknowledgement on that. Great work from her. The walk with me, I attended with councillors on that, and yeah, it was a great turnout. And I just want to remind everybody that on Sunday coming up will be the Comox Valley Christmas Parade. So that'll be in Courtney and Santa, and should be fun. And so I encourage everybody to come out with that. So before we exclude the public and go in camera, Councillor-elect Kerr would like to make a comment. So would you like to sit at the table, or sit at the table, or up at the podium, wherever you feel comfortable with? Yeah, okay. Just okay.
Oh, are we on live? Okay, I just wanted to do this.
Yeah. So at this point, we will exclude the public and motion to go in camera.